The snow had been falling since sunrise. By late afternoon, the sidewalks of Cedar Ridge, Colorado, were buried beneath nearly 6 inches of fresh powder. Cars moved slowly. Store owners shoveled entrances every hour. Most people hurried from one warm building to another. But one woman kept walking. 32-year-old Emily Carter pulled her coat tighter around her shoulders as she pushed through the icy wind. Beside her walked her 8-year-old daughter, Lily, bundled in a pink winter jacket that looked one size too small. The two had already walked nearly 2 miles. And they weren't heading home. They were looking for a dog. Not because it belonged to them. Because they had found it. And because Emily believed that when something valuable belongs to someone else, you return it, no matter how inconvenient it may be. What she didn't know was that the dog belonged to one of the wealthiest men in the state. And before the day ended, a simple act of kindness would change both of their lives. 3 months earlier, Emily's life had taken a difficult turn. Her husband, Mark, had passed away unexpectedly after a workplace accident. The loss left a hole in her life that seemed impossible to fill. Emotionally, she was devastated. Financially, things became even harder. Emily worked part-time at the town library while trying to raise Lily alone. The bills stacked up faster than she could pay them. She sold furniture. Canceled subscriptions. Skipped buying new clothes. Learned how to stretch every dollar. Yet somehow, she never complained. People at the library often noticed her smile. Even on difficult days. Even when they knew she was struggling. Emily had developed a habit years earlier. Whenever life became overwhelming, she asked herself one question. What kind of example am I setting for Lily today? That question guided almost every decision she made. And it guided her on this snowy afternoon. Emily and Lily were walking home from the grocery store when they first spotted the dog. The golden retriever was standing near an intersection, shivering beside a snow-covered bench. No leash. No owner. No tags visible beneath its thick fur. The dog looked confused. Cars passed. People glanced. Nobody stopped. Lily immediately tugged her mother's sleeve. "Mom, look." Emily knelt down. The dog cautiously approached. Its tail wagged once. Then twice. Within seconds it leaned gently against Emily's leg. The poor animal was freezing. "Can we help him?" Lily asked. Emily nodded. Of course. They checked nearby streets. Asked passing pedestrians. Knocked on a few doors. No one recognized the dog. Finally, Emily found a phone number stitched onto the inside of the dog's collar. Unfortunately, her phone battery had died hours earlier. The nearest place she could call from was nearly a mile away. Most people would have taken the dog to a shelter. Most people would have waited until morning. Emily chose differently. Because somewhere, she knew, someone was worried. After borrowing a phone from a small coffee shop, Emily reached the number. A relieved voice answered immediately. "Oh, thank goodness." The caller sounded almost breathless. The dog, whose name was Winston, had disappeared earlier that afternoon after slipping through an open gate. The owner offered to send someone immediately. But Emily looked outside. The roads were becoming dangerous. Snow continued falling heavily. "It's okay," she said. "We can bring him." The caller hesitated. "Are you sure?" Emily smiled. "He's probably eager to get home." The address was across town. Almost 2 miles away. Lily looked at her mother. "That's a long walk." Emily squeezed her hand. "It is." Then she smiled. "But imagine how happy Winston's family will be." The journey took nearly an hour. Snow crunched beneath their boots. The wind stung their cheeks. Several times Lily grew tired. Several times Winston stopped to shake snow from his fur. Yet somehow they kept moving. As daylight faded, they finally reached an enormous property overlooking the valley. Tall iron gates. Stone walls. Perfect landscaping hidden beneath fresh snow. Even Lily's eyes widened. Wow. Emily quietly nodded. She had no idea who lived there. But it was clearly someone successful. A security guard spotted them approaching and quickly opened the gate. Moments later, the front door burst open. A tall man in his early 50s ran down the front steps. Not walked. Ran. The golden retriever immediately recognized him. Winston sprinted forward. The man's face transformed with relief. He dropped to his knees and wrapped both arms around the dog. For several seconds he simply held him. As if he had nearly lost a member of his family. Then he looked up. His eyes landed on Emily and Lily. "You found him?" Emily nodded. The man stood. "Thank you." His voice cracked slightly. "Thank you so much." The man introduced himself as Jonathan Reed. Emily recognized the name immediately. Almost everyone in Colorado did. Jonathan Reed was a billionaire entrepreneur whose technology companies employed thousands of people across the country. His businesses appeared regularly in magazines and television interviews. Yet standing there in the snow, he didn't look like a billionaire. He looked like a worried dog owner. Nothing more. Nothing less. Jonathan knelt beside Lily. "You brought Winston home?" Lily smiled. "We both did." Jonathan laughed. "Well, I owe you both a huge thank you." He turned toward Emily. "Please come inside and warm up." Emily politely declined. "We should get going." Jonathan looked surprised. "At least let me drive you home." Emily glanced at the snowy road. Then she shook her head. "We'll walk." Jonathan blinked. "Walk? It's not that far." "Not that far," he repeated. "You walked 2 miles in this weather." Emily smiled gently. "We walked here because Winston needed help." Jonathan stared at her for a moment. Then he asked something he hadn't expected to ask. "Why?" Emily laughed softly. "Because it was the right thing to do." The answer seemed almost too simple. Yet something about it stopped Jonathan cold. For years, he had lived in a world of contracts, negotiations, profits, and transactions. Almost every interaction involved an exchange. People wanted something. Expected something. Negotiated something. Yet this woman had walked miles through a snowstorm asking for absolutely nothing. Not money. Not recognition. Not favors. Nothing. Jonathan suddenly felt embarrassed. Because deep down, he realized he had expected her to want something. Most people would have. Emily simply wanted Winston home. Jonathan insisted one final time. "Please let me drive you." Emily shook her head again. "Thank you. But we'll be okay." Then she looked at Lily. "Ready?" Lily nodded. The two started walking toward the gate. Jonathan watched them disappear into the snow. And for reasons he couldn't explain, he couldn't stop thinking about them. That evening, after Winston fell asleep near the fireplace, Jonathan sat alone in his living room. The image kept returning. A single mother. A little girl. Walking through a snowstorm. Expecting nothing. As he reflected on the encounter, he realized something uncomfortable. He couldn't remember the last purely selfless act he'd witnessed. Not because people were bad. But because genuine kindness had become increasingly rare in his world. Before going to bed, he asked his assistant to find out more about Emily Carter. Not to reward her. At least, that's what he told himself. He simply wanted to know who she was. The next morning, he learned her story. Widowed. Working part-time. Raising a daughter. Struggling financially. Volunteering at local literacy programs. Helping elderly neighbors. Delivering library books to homebound residents. Jonathan read every page. Then sat silently. The more he learned, the more impressed he became. Not because Emily was perfect, but because she remained kind despite hardship. Many people become bitter after loss. Emily had become compassionate. That difference mattered. A week later, Jonathan visited the library. Without cameras. Without publicity. Without announcements. Emily was organizing returned books when she looked up. Her eyes widened. "Mr. Reed?" Jonathan smiled. "Hi, Emily. What brings you here?" He glanced around. "I came to return something." She looked confused. "What?" Jonathan smiled. "The lesson you gave me." Emily laughed. "I don't understand." "I think you do." They talked for nearly an hour. About life. Loss. Parenthood. Community. Success. For the first time in years, Jonathan found himself having a conversation that felt completely honest. No business agenda. No networking. No expectations. Just two people talking. Before leaving, Jonathan asked one final question. "How do you stay positive after everything you've been through?" Emily thought carefully. Then answered. "I stopped asking why difficult things happen." Jonathan listened. Instead, she continued, "I ask what good I can still do today." The words stayed with him long after he left. Over the next several months, Jonathan quietly became involved with several community projects Emily supported. He funded literacy programs. Expanded library resources. Created scholarships for single-parent families. Not because Emily asked. She never did. Because she reminded him that success meant little if it wasn't helping others. Meanwhile, Emily never changed. She kept showing up. Kept helping people. Kept teaching Lily the same lesson. Character matters when nobody is watching. One spring afternoon, Lily asked her mother a question. "Do you think returning Winston changed our lives?" Emily smiled. "A little." Lily grinned. "Because we met Jonathan?" Emily shook her head. "No." "Then why?" Emily looked out the window. "Because every time we choose kindness, it changes who we become." Lily thought about that. Then slowly nodded. Years later, Jonathan often told people the story of the snowy afternoon when a single mother walked 2 miles to return his dog. Whenever people asked why he became more involved in community service, he always gave the same answer. "Because someone reminded me that kindness isn't measured by what you have." He would pause. Then smile. "It's measured by what you're willing to do for someone else." And on the coldest day of that winter, Emily Carter had been willing to walk through a storm for a frightened dog she didn't even know. Not for recognition. Not for money. Not for opportunity. Simply because it was the right thing to do. Sometimes the most powerful acts of kindness aren't the grand gestures people remember. They're the quiet choices made when nobody is watching. The choices that reveal who we truly are. And those choices have a way of inspiring others far beyond what we can ever imagine. Because kindness travels. From one person to another. From one heart to another. And sometimes, from a snowy road, all the way into a better future.